Hello, everyone. I am your host, Ahad Hussain, and welcome to Season 4 of Titan Alumni Talks, a weekly podcast where we talk to alumni about their experiences at Cal State Fullerton. For this week's episode, we have Stephanie Miranda, who is a news producer for KNBC. She graduated in 2004 with a bachelor's in communications. Listen as we talk about the impact of her job, along with how she won multiple Emmys for her work. You can catch these episodes live at 11 a.m. on Tuesdays at titanradio.org, or you can watch all past episodes on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/CSUF alumni. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
You currently work as a producer for KNBC, so tell me a little bit about what you do over there.
Oh boy. So a little bit of everything, mostly writing. I write the content that's in the show. I'm also responsible for the content that's in the show. So the story selection, the angles that we're going to cover, the way we're going to present the show, the graphics in the show, the arrangements that we use in our studio, on the set, sometimes involving live shots. So as the producer, I'm responsible for all that. While I'm in the show, while I'm in the newscast, I'm also responsible for breaking news. So let's say we launch the helicopter to some type of breaking situation. Let's say it's a fire. It's up to me to get it on the air as quickly as possible. That involves also pursuits. That can, in situations perhaps like today where it's raining, that could involve mudslides. It could involve water rescues. You just never know. We're lucky at NBC4. We have 2 helicopters. Sometimes we have them in the air at the same time. So that also involves using 2 helicopters at the same time, along sometimes with even crews on the ground. So it's, I call it a juggling act. If you're lucky, you're only dealing with 3 elements at a time. But there's sometimes I've been involved with many, many more, sometimes dozens of elements at a time. And it's always a learning process, but it's what I love to do, for a living.
So how did you get into this role at KNBC? Previously, I know you were working at different news stations, right? And they kind of made you, you weren't always in Southern California. In some cases, you were in Texas or Arizona. So is this kind of like the norm for producers or people working in television, that you just don't get like a choice? You kind of have to be wherever they need you to be?
Yeah, I mean, things are a little bit different now versus when I started. I mean, when I started, I'm going to age myself a little bit. There was no such thing as Facebook or Twitter. There was no such thing as Instagram or TikTok or anything like that. And I think MySpace was actually just starting to come around when I started as a news producer. So things have changed a lot now with digital. As a starting out journalist, as a fresh journalist right out of college, you certainly could start in a larger market, in a larger city, being perhaps a digital journalist. There are things like that, positions where you can start a little bit smaller. When I started, yes, it was a lot of, you needed to find a job that was likely where I was born and raised, which was Los Angeles, and obviously where I went to college. So I got lucky and I put my resume out there, and I started in a job market that a lot of people were hiring at the time. That has been an issue too throughout the years that I've worked as a producer. Stations have made cutbacks, so it's not always easy to find a job, especially even now in this economy. But I got lucky and I found a job right away after college, and I moved and I went to West Texas. And that was very much a learning experience for me. Obviously, growing up in Southern California and attending Cal State Fullerton, I didn't really live far away from home. I commuted for my college career. So to actually pack up all my things and leave, and not just be like Palm Springs, where I could drive home if I wanted to. I mean, this was a 16-hour, 18-hour drive to move to West Texas. But what I appreciated most about that opportunity, and I call it an opportunity because it really is, I took a chance and the station took a chance on me, and I really learned how to grow up in that time. I was 25 at the time. I had just started my career, but by kind of quieting the noise around me, not being around friends, not being around family, not being influenced by perhaps I wanted to stay out late or do whatever. I could really just focus on my career. And I really appreciated those times when I could just jump in and there were breakers, let's say on days that I had off, and I could just come into the station and really work on that, because I knew Los Angeles was my ultimate goal, to come home. And I knew, as with perhaps even an athlete, the more you practice your craft, the better you're going to get at it. And so I really used Texas and Arizona and ultimately San Diego, and then coming to Los Angeles as opportunities to practice my craft, to really get that perfect resume and come to LA and be ready to come to LA.
Mm-hmm. So you kind of have to take that like step, even if it's not your end goal, right? So you started working in Texas and then Arizona, but then you ended up coming back to LA and working where you grew up. So you kind of have to like stray away. And it is like an opportunity, like you mentioned, even though you are like saying getting further away from your end goal. But in the end of it, you get that experience, like you mentioned. And then with the skills that you got, you were able to come back and be a producer here in LA. So It all just like circles back.
Yeah, it comes full circle. And I really appreciated working in a much smaller market. Obviously, in a smaller market, you don't have all the things that, Los Angeles has. I'm talking about 2 helicopters and obviously a much larger reporting staff and photographers. And so you really learn to work. I always talk about working with a basket of fruit. You go to a smaller market, you're working with apples and oranges. That's it. You're doing the editing, you're writing the stories, you're putting the show together. Sometimes you're writing the reporter packages. You're helping the reporter work on their live shot because you want your newscast to look a certain way. And then you move to a bigger market like Arizona, and I learned to add apples with oranges and throw in some bananas and some pineapples. And so you get a little bit more. And then again, in San Diego, that was my first opportunity to work with a helicopter. So now you're dealing with grapes, and kiwi. And so it is a juggling act to start adding more fruit to your basket. But by the time then you get to Los Angeles, you're ready to handle all of that. And I talk to students about that a lot of times is, be careful what you think you want in the beginning, because if you're not ready to juggle this entire fruit basket, you're going to sink really fast. Learn to work with apples and oranges better. And then when you have that giant basket of fruit, you know how to handle what's coming at you.
So even though you had that experience, like at college, working at school, or like learning at school, it's still different in the real world, and you still got to start from the beginning, like you mentioned, with apples and oranges before you could take on the bigger challenges, like getting the extra resources that you would have here in LA. That if, like, let's say maybe KNBC hired you right away, and as like a producer role, maybe you wouldn't have been so good at it because you wouldn't have mastered the basics where you did in other places for a couple of years before coming here.
Yeah, and I don't think I would have been as confident in my role, and confidence is key when you're dealing with breaking news and you're trying to talk to your anchors and say, hey, we've had this show put together for hours now, but guess what? It's all going out the window because something just happened and we're just going to have to go with the flow. Breaking news happens and you got to stick with it. You're not going to just go back to, well, this is what we planned. This is what we're doing. Nobody's going to do that. So, and when you're talking to your anchors and you're having those conversations, you really have to, as the producer, have that confidence, and I think you learn that confidence, you gain that confidence, and not just yourself, but to convince others to rally around you when there is breaking news by working, in a smaller market and really figuring those things out early on. I certainly made a lot of mistakes in my smaller markets. I make mistakes here, even in Los Angeles, but there have been times when, systems have gone down in Los Angeles and all of a sudden it's like, we can't get a live shot in. Okay, that's fine. I've worked in a smaller market. We didn't have live shots. I can do this, but if you've always worked in Los Angeles or worked in a larger city where you're just used to that, you may not have that experience to just kind of go with the flow and change things up and go back to what you knew from the beginning.
So how else has like the pandemic changed what you do at work? Is it, do you still go into the studio, or is it like everything that you do now just from home?
So I continue to report to the studio. Personal about me, I'm a mom. I have a 7-year-old and a 2.5-year-old, and my husband's a stay-at-home dad. So we're really lucky. But yeah, I still go into the studio because I don't think there's any way I could actually get my job done with 2 kids, one a distance learner and one running around. There are other staff. A majority of our staff are actually working from home. Our team of writers are working from home. We do have producers that are working from home. That's whatever their needs are. My personal needs, I enjoy coming into the newsroom and being part of a team. And with that does come some risks. We do take steps to protect ourselves, and we always wear masks. We are tested once a week. So that is something wild that, obviously rapidly changed along with the rest of the country basically a year ago. And we're still in that mode. In fact, what is now happening is discussions are underway to kind of keep the staffing the way it is keep some of our workers still working from home and keeping some of us reporting into the newsroom. It was rocky in the beginning to try to get everybody online because you're used to working in this newsroom that is very fast paced and things break and happen. And you can just kind of shout against the room like, hey, somebody cut me the video, somebody listened to this interview, somebody do that. And now everything is, we're part of this big giant like group conversation, text messaging kind of system within our own internal editing system. And we have to kind of talk to each other through the groups. And it's, as with text messages, things can be misinterpreted. And it's like, no, that's not tape I wanted. That's not the video I wanted. But I think we really have made some great changes and we've really adapted to, I never thought possible in my career, like you could have a newsroom still function without everybody being in the same room. I never thought that was possible. So it's amazing to see. Kudos to our I team, who are our tech team, who really put the systems together for some of us to be able to work from home. With that said, there have been opportunities where I have worked from home simply because of my family's needs. And so I always appreciate those opportunities that are available through our company, through NBC Universal. They always appreciate and recognize family comes first and your personal needs come first. And they really respect that. And, I've been lucky that there have been times when I've said, hey, like, my husband's got this and my daughter's got this and we've got an appointment here. And is there any way I can work from home? And the answer's always been yes. So it's great to work for a company that, pandemic or not, always sees family first.
So do you think that once everyone gets vaccinated, the pandemic restrictions ease up, will you still plan on doing things from home or at least partially, or do you think everything's going to be back in the studio?
It sounds like a lot of people are still going to be working from home. Obviously living in Los Angeles and working in Los Angeles, real estate's expensive to maintain a giant newsroom with a lot of people report work every day. So it might be nicer to move into a smaller building maybe, and have less people. And with that, sometimes comes with some benefits. I haven't caught a cold since a year ago in March. It's usually my son who comes home from school with a cold, and it's been kind of nice, to certainly not have a flu season this year, certainly not have caught any colds this year. The kids haven't been sick, which is always nice. And so I think thinning out staff, at least those that are reporting to the building, really kind of helps with that, long term. And I think it also brings a sense of work-life balance when you're not sitting in traffic all day long to try to get, whether you're going to the newsroom or trying to get to a story, you can just dispatch from your house right to a story. Zoom and all the other avenues have really made it easy to interview people. When's another opportunity when you normally would get to interview Dr. Anthony Fauci? Now it's just, hey, you just get on Zoom like this and you can interview anybody across the world. And it's really in many ways opened up other avenues where I think maybe a year ago, we didn't think was possible. And I think we've really just embraced how big our world can be with so much technology available.
So I had a question about your role as a producer. You started off in Texas right after you graduated. So is there a stepping stone before becoming a producer, or is it something you just do after college?
Well, in our case, at least in my case, when I graduated from college, that was kind of the stepping stone, was going to a smaller market and just, getting the job and making it work, learning along the way. I certainly did internships so I could gain some of those basic skills I needed, like editing and how to write for TV news and how to put a newscast together and how to manage breaking news. Again, I was lucky. I grew up here in Southern California. So, working, interning for one of the second largest stations in the country, you certainly learn a lot there and you learn pretty fast. And so I was thankful that I had all of that knowledge. And I think internships are still required. I don't know with pandemic, but I think internships are still required before you graduate. And that's one of the biggest things I tell students all the time is you can't do enough internships. That should be just as important as the classes you take. You need to integrate that into your schedule. You need to take what you're learning in the classroom and actually learn how to apply it to real life. Know the schedule, know how things work, know how the newsroom functions. One of the greatest things I gained from doing my very first internship, I thought I wanted to be a reporter. All my high school career I started at community college before I transferred to Cal State Fullerton. I thought I wanted to be a reporter, and I took my first internship at ABC 7 and sat down with a reporter, and I was like, this is not at all what I wanted to do. She kept having to take her microphone and ask for sound bites and put it in people's face, and everybody would turn her down, and I don't want to talk, and I don't want to talk to the media, and no, I have no comment. And I was like, wow, this is really this is not my personality. You have to be like a very, I think, forward person to be a journalist. You kind of have to be able to just brush things off, I think, easily. And learn rejection really easily. And that just didn't fit my personality. And thankfully I was smart enough and I expressed that to the internship coordinator. And I said, I love being in a newsroom. I love the vibe of it. I love being here. I just feel like my batteries are completely charged up and plugged in this room, but this is not a role I'm comfortable in. What else is there? Because obviously this room is filled with people. What else is there? And we talked and I told her what I enjoyed, my passions. And she's like, let me sit you down with a producer. And her name happened to be Stephanie as well, Stephanie Endo Chan. And I sat with her and she did the 11 a.m. I think she actually still does to this day. She did the 11 a.m. newscast at ABC 7. And I sat down with her and I saw her put this newscast together. And I thought, oh my God, I'm in love. Like, this is what I get this. This is me. This is who I want to be. And I just knew from then on. And I'm just so thankful that I had that internship, because without it, I might have probably finished college and maybe put a resume tape together and then took a first job as a reporter and then realized that I wasn't happy. I could have really gone down like a not good road, I think. And I'm so thankful that I figured that out early on in my internship. And then I think with passion just comes that, my dad used to always tell me and my brother, find a job that you love, because if you do something you love, it never feels like work. And that's how I feel every day that I go to work. And don't get me wrong, there are days that are hard, but there are days the schedule is really long, or, days, election day, you're working like 12, 18-hour days, but I love it. Like, I love being at work. I get up in the morning and I put on my clothes and I'm not dreading driving to work every day. I feel excitement. I feel my batteries fully charged. I feel energized. And I think if you're going to go down the path of journalism, that's really how you should feel, because there was one question you and I had, or that was on your sheet, or something we had talked about, is like, why, like something about your passion, or why do you feel, it's like, it's a lifestyle. Like, what's the biggest change about it? And I remember thinking, if you're going to sign up to be a journalist, this is a lifestyle. This is not job. This is not where you show up to work every day and you punch your clock and, you do your time and then you go home. I'm a journalist 24/7. If I see breaking news happen on my day off, if all of a sudden my neighbor's house catches fire, whatever, I'm running outside, I'm getting video, I'm getting interviews, I'm reporting it into the station. I might even offer a live picture from my cell phone, and that goes with anywhere. I'm constantly looking in the sky. Why is this helicopter flying? Why are they hovering? Why is there traffic backing up over here? Is there a really bad accident? Is somebody about to jump off of a bridge? I am constantly going. And if you're a journalist, if you're going to sign up to be a journalist, you're going to sign up to work in news. That's the lifestyle you're looking at. My family also understands and respects that, we're a team. And when we get called to the game, sometimes on our days off, you have to show up. And there was a day, it was 4th of July. It was the day of the earthquake. It was like a 7.0, 7, maybe 2. I'm trying to remember. We all felt it here at home. We get text alerts on our phones right away, whether or not we have to report to work. My family understands that. It's 4th of July. I had the day off. We were planning to make hot dogs and chips and go watch fireworks. Thankfully, I was able to get home with enough time to make that happen. But, they understand too that mama's got to go to work. And I go to work for a few hours and I put in my time and then I come home. So it is a lifestyle. And if you're not into that vibe, if you rather just come home and it's 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock and you checked out and whatever, then journalism probably isn't the line of work for you.
So this would fall into advice you would give to people going into journalism. Because
Absolutely.
us, normally we want to, if something happened, like you mentioned, if there's traffic backed up, if we feel an earthquake, we want to know what happened, right? And the first thing we go to is search on Google and we expect some results. The results come from people like you who have to go into work and have to get the story down first. You can't you are not able to Google things at breaking news. That's
Right.
our job to Google it. You have to give it to us. So it's kind of crazy to think about that. Your job is to find out what's happening before people know it's happening.
Yeah.
So they kind of have to get in that mindset.
And to be honest, cell phones and social media has really changed that landscape because, guess what? You got one of these, you're a journalist. You shoot video, you post it online, you post it on Twitter, I'm going to find out about it. So I don't need to always be rushing a camera to the scene. Chances are I'm going to find it on Twitter before I can even get a photographer on scene. Because the people I think they're driven by that. They're on Facebook Live. I'm always wondering what we would know now about 9/11 if it happened in this time. What we would know about the O.J. Simpson chase if it happened now with cell phones and social media and Twitter and video and Facebook Live. I look back at some of the stories that have changed the timeline of history and what it meant then, but what it would mean now with video and what was happening. It blows my mind sometimes. But yeah, people don't realize that our own public is really feeding news. It's really feeding the beast because they're curious and they're shooting video and they're shooting photos and Ring cameras. People have cameras in the front of their houses now. It captures everything. It captures accidents. It captured the shooting of the dog walker for Lady Gaga. Their cameras are everywhere. It's there's a movie. What is it with Tom Cruise? Not The Matrix, because that's Keanu Reeves. But anyways, there was a movie with Tom Cruise about how in the future, there was going to be cameras everywhere. They are. They're in your pocket. They're in your purse. So.
And then I guess people get that dopamine rush with engagement on their social media sites. So you sort of want to record things as they're happening and you do want to share it, which kind of makes your job easier because you mentioned something that you couldn't get footage of, like Lady Gaga's dog walker being shot. There's no way, no one could have gotten footage of that, but it existed because someone posted it, someone has to share it. they kind of get that dopamine rush of like, oh, I recorded it, I did something good, and I can share it with people. Because now that I recall, I see whenever like a big thing is happening or a big video is being recorded, I see like comments from reporters who say, hey, we're from this network, do we have your
Mm-hmm.
permission to use this? So I guess that
Mm-hmm.
kind of makes your job easier, and that's like a big change from when you started, because you started in '04, before cameras were like in everyone's pockets and everyone was recording, and even like on their houses or on the streets everywhere. So
Yeah.
it's just easier to get footage and get things that are happening. And again, like when things happen, right? Like if an earthquake happens right now, you can easily just go on Twitter and search earthquake LA, and then all these
Mm-hmm.
hashtags, all these like location posts will come to you directly. So you could get those updates. If someone's house breaks down because of it, you can easily post about it, talk about it because of that. So it is again
Yeah.
surreal to like just think about in just a few years, the job of a producer or a reporter has changed drastically.
It is. And to be honest, sometimes it's hard to keep up. I was at the newsroom the day of the Tiger Woods crash, which was like 2 weeks ago now. And we just had got word that there was this really bad crash in the morning. And we had some like rumors going around that maybe it involved Tiger Woods. And so right away, it's like, whoa, well, things are adding up. He had been in town this weekend. He had been staying in Orange County. So all of a sudden, the dots are starting to align. And I reached out to a friend of mine who actually works for NBC Network. And I said, hey, just so you know, we're working this story today. So if you hear anything, let me know. Well, we were able to quickly put 2 and 2 together, and we launched our chopper. And so again, all these things are starting to unfold. And it's amazing how quickly all of a sudden now the word is getting out. It was in fact Tiger Woods, right? Now you're putting it on TV. It was in fact Tiger Woods. Whoa, look at the wreckage. It's really bad. And you almost start to get to this like avalanche stage, because now the word is spreading and now social media is taking off, right? And now you're like, okay, Michael Phelps is tweeting about it. Alex Rodriguez is tweeting about it. And you almost kind of can't keep up. You know, we have a system in our newsroom where we can put up tweets right away, but they were coming in so quickly. Phil Mickelson, the PGA, like everybody was sending out tweets, and you're trying to also find video and new information because you're feeding this beast. The nature of what drives TV news is to always find something new, and social media always offers something new. And so I even found myself downstairs in the control room while we're running this coverage of like, okay, we just put up the Alex Rodriguez tweet. Okay. Oh, Michael Phelps came in. Oh, this one came. Oh, the ex-girlfriend just, tweeted. Oh, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, I happened to be driving to work and I saw this really bad wreck. I didn't realize it was Tiger Woods. Here's the video. And so now you're just like, whoa. And it's like this for hours on end. And we're used to it in the newsroom, but at the same time, you can see how quickly it can get away from you, because it's coming in just too fast sometimes.
So I did have a question about, you mentioned prior that you got into journalism, or you knew you wanted to be in broadcasting since you were in high school. So
Mm-hmm.
how did that kind of start, that idea of you wanting to go there? And correct me if I'm wrong, you did take a little bit of gap between high school and college, right?
No. I started college right away, right after
Oh,
high
okay.
school. I knew I wanted to be a journalist. Again, I thought I wanted to be a reporter when I finished high school. I went to community college, and I just kind of started my undergrad work, there, and still trying to find my way. At one point I wrote for like the college newspaper, and I knew right away that's not what I wanted, because by the time it was published, it was like old, and I knew I wanted something to do with TV. And, my parents we always grew up watching the news. My parents were always, involved in current events. And I think it just, that was just part of what we did. And we talked about current events, and we just kind of knew what was going on in the world. And there was just something about it, that I don't know really how to describe it, but watching news as a kid, and then obviously as a young adult, and I lived for breaking news. That was like the thing. I mean, when breaking news happened and the screen went red and the breaking signs and bells and whistles went off, boy, I just lived for that stuff. And obviously growing up in Southern California, if there was an earthquake, you knew that the station was going to go on the air, and I would just channel surf, like 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, like back and forth. Who was going to go on the TV first? And there was just something about that just really excited me. And to this day, that's still part of what excites me the most is, getting on the air with breaking news. Like I said, Tiger Woods, it happened. I was at work one day and we just, boom, just get on the news, get on TV. This is what we do. Yeah, I don't really, it's just something about, like why do people love cars? Like I love news. So.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but you did win an Emmy Award for your work at NBC, right?
I did. So I have 5 Emmy Awards. Wow. One of which is behind me right there.
Oh, those, I've never seen an Emmy Award. So I didn't know what that was.
So there's one behind me. So I have 5 Emmy Awards. My most favorite one is the one that's right behind me, and that's what sits on my dresser at night. And there's a little personal story behind that one that I will try to quickly share. But again, I was at work, and there was a fire that started in Calabasas, and it was getting really close to some homes. And we have an anchor that lives out in that area. And so she called the station and she's like, we were just in the pool and this fire's getting really close, and I can see smoke and I can see flames. I was like, oh my gosh. Okay. So let me launch a chopper. So we launched a chopper, we get a crew headed that way. And she's like, this is really bad. Like it's close. And I said, okay. I said, well, the chopper's like 5 minutes away. Can you get on the phone and just walk me through what you're seeing, what you're doing? She says, yeah, sure. No problem. So we went on the air. We ended up going on the air 8 hours commercial free to cover the Calabasas fire. It did get dangerously close to homes. It did ruin like a Boy Scout camp. And I think like a kid center, like a daycare kind of center, but more like summer camp. It's not always full. And obviously it's a weekend, so there was like nobody there, but it did cause some evacuations, and it did cause, obviously some damage to brush and trees and whatever in Calabasas. Thankfully, no homes actually burned. But that's when we're doing a service and people want to know, is my neighborhood okay? If I'm having to leave, I want to see the pictures and I want to know what street, your camera is on, and I want to know my house is okay. And I'm passionate about fires because I lived through my own fire once. My very first job, I was in West Texas and I had my own apartment. And there was a neighbor. I lived on the bottom unit and somebody lived on the top unit. The lady above me was a smoker and she was on an oxygen tank. She left the oxygen tank on and she lit a cigarette and caused an explosion in the apartment that was above mine. And my apartment caught fire as well as 8 other units in that building. And we lost everything in a matter of maybe 2 hours. So I stood there as I watched my own apartment and everything inside of it burn. My yearbooks, my prom dress, my Christmas ornaments, jewelry, my high school class ring. All of it was gone in a matter of 2 hours. And there was nothing I could do about it. I was thankful to the firefighters that were able to go into my apartment and get my purse, which had my wallet in it, so that I could fly home for a few days and, figure out what I was going to do. Ultimately, I went back to West Texas and got a new apartment and bought all new furniture and all new things. And that's part of the reason why when there are fires in Southern California, I want to be on TV because I know what that feels like when there's nothing you can do and all you want are answers. And even if the answers are not good, even if the answers are this neighborhood didn't survive, at least it's answers. That's how I felt when I was there. And I think that's what takes me back to those moments is I've been through something like that. And I know how they feel. And beyond just what if the flames get too close? Well, the flames got really close because it destroyed everything. And I'm hopeful that that doesn't happen to anybody, but when it does, I like them to know that there's a reason behind why I'm bringing them the pictures on TV, because it has a personal connection for me.
So it kind of like builds on that. You kind of can resonate with them and understand what they're going through. So it kind of gives you that satisfaction that you can give an answer to them as someone who has gone through it and has experienced what it is like to lose something that is irreplaceable. Like some things money can just buy back, but like you mentioned, some yearbook pictures or your prom dress, like money just can't get those memories back. So that's kind of the unfortunate things of some parts of it. But so how are Emmys like won for certain broadcasts or certain? I don't know anything about Emmys.
Oh, so they have different categories, and you submit your work. For lack of a better term, it's a contest, and you go up against obviously your peers, and you're judged based on your peers. They go to a different market. So like people in LA are not voting on LA submissions. And so they go to a different TV market and people vote on them. And then they ultimately decide out of this group. Well, first you send in your nomination. So in this particular case, I submitted for live coverage of a breaking news event. That was the category. I thought 8.5 hours of live nonstop coverage of a fire was qualified. And so I submitted the video, and, I don't really know how many submissions there actually were, from other stations for this particular category, but I ultimately became one of 4. It was whittled down to 4. And then those 4 submissions go to a different team, and they review them and they go, okay, this one is worthy of an Emmy. And it just so happened I was actually up against somebody else at my station. They decided that there was this, it was a coverage of a UCLA shooting. And another producer had submitted their coverage for that. And so it was me and a producer from my station, and then 2 other submissions that I was up against. And the Calabasas coverage ultimately won. So it was an interesting dynamic to be up against somebody else at my own station, up against your own peers. But, that's what it's about. And at the end of the day, it's, I get to bring, I get to be rewarded for something that I actually just love doing. Like it wasn't any extra work. It wasn't, the time away from my family. I was already at work. And so it's nice to be recognized by your peers for your hard work.
You kind of get that like extra bonus on top of just doing something that you would have done anyways, regardless of if this award was there or not. You just had to submit it afterwards without like pre-thought of, oh yeah, I recorded this for that. It's just
right. I mean, we go on the TV regardless. I would have been happy if the coverage, regardless of whether, I got the Emmy or not. But yeah, when at the end of the day, when the bonus prize is you win an Emmy for it, that's kind of cool.
Are there any things for like producing or in journalism or some behind the scenes facts or like myths that you can like share with us?
Oh, myths. I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, I think overall one of the myths is probably like, we're journalists, we don't have a heart, we throw mics in your face on maybe your worst day, but at the end of the day, we have families and we, some of us have kids and, we don't, we live in the community too. It's not like we're plucked out. It's not like we fly in from Sacramento every day and cover Los Angeles. Like we live in this city. We want it to be its best. We don't want it to have, negative energy or negative headlines. That's not what we're looking for. One of the biggest things I think that drives me when I go to work every day is not so much asking the questions, but questioning the answers. That was a big one for me with COVID is, they kept shutting all these things down and, look, I'm not going to say shutting down was right, shutting down was wrong. You could argue both sides of the coin, but as a journalist, well, where's the data that supports this? Where's the data that says, that getting a haircut is unsafe or getting a pedicure or whatever is unsafe. And I'm not saying that as like, first world problems, like I want a haircut or I want a pedicure, but, these are the businesses that, live in my neighborhood, work in my neighborhood. And, we want to support them as well. So, I think having that voice for them is good. I can't think of any other real, myths. I mean, I'm a news junkie. That I think that's obvious when you first start talking to me, that I'm passionate about news and I'm passionate about headlines, and I'm certainly passionate about breaking news and using that helicopter. Yeah, I can't think of any other myths, but we're fun people. We're a job like anybody else. We certainly get harassed out there on the streets a lot. But that doesn't take away from what we do or what our passion is to keep doing what we do.
So to end it off, I was just wondering, do you have like a favorite memory at Cal State Fullerton?
Oh, wow. Favorite. It's been a while. Favorite memory. I think, I'll be honest, I think graduating. Graduation day. My parents had two goals. My mom worked for Secret Service. She retired from Secret Service. My dad's a general contractor. He's retired now. And they had a goal for my brother and I. We're third generation Mexican American. So my grandparents were born here. My parents were born here. Obviously, I was born here. They just had a goal that they wanted their kids to go to college. And it always makes me a little emotional, but I was the first in my family to graduate from college. And that was big. They put a lot of money on the line because that's what they wanted. And I wanted it too. I knew that what I wanted to do for a living, and I knew it required a college education. And that's what I wanted to sign up for. And that's the hard work I wanted to put in. My uncle always said that a college education is proof to a company that you're willing to invest in yourself, and therefore they should invest in you. And I believe that. I think you gain not just knowledge, but you gain experience from college. And so that graduation day was probably one of the, next to my wedding and the birth of my kids, it was like the best day of my life, because it meant so much to a lot of people. It obviously meant a lot to me because I had put in the hard work, right? I had done the tests and I had done the internships and I deserved that degree. But, you're obviously, if you've ever walked in graduation, your parents are like way far away. But if I could see their faces, the day my name was called and I was the first in my family to get a college education, that's priceless for me. And that's part of the reason I do interviews like this and conversations like this with Cal State Fullerton and the Alumni Association, because, when I started my career, there weren't a lot of people that looked like me in newsrooms, certainly not female. And, a lot of that has changed since I've started my career. And I think that says a lot to see yourself in somebody who has made it through. And by no means am I, a martyr or a trailblazer or anything like that. But I certainly enjoy sharing my experience and my story, because maybe there's some other little brown girl out there who has dreams of graduating from college someday and whatever she wants to do, wants to be a doctor, wants to be a nurse, wants to launch a rocket to Mars, wants to be a journalist like me. I think it helps to see other people have done it, and it takes work, but you can do it too.
And I appreciate you sharing that, because that is like the goal of this podcast and what we kind of ask for alumni. When we say alumni should give back to their community and their I cannot pronounce that, their school, we don't just mean like donations. Right. Donations are helpful, but a big help would be just giving their time.
I agree. I think this is so much more helpful.
Yeah.
I think our professors I worked with when I was in college, did their best to really do this. I think more so now, like I said, with Zoom and stuff like this, I mean, you can just bring faces right into the classroom from wherever they are, even in the middle of their workday. And I can't think of a stronger alumni association than Cal State Fullerton. Obviously I haven't been to any other university than Cal State Fullerton, but I have friends that obviously went to other universities, and I'm like, do you guys do this? Do you guys do that? And they're like, no. I'm like, really? I'm like, wow. I feel like Cal State Fullerton is just this like this family that you don't even want to get away from, you want to just keep giving more and more and more to it, because how much you just got from it. And I couldn't be more proud to be a Titan. And I mean, I still have the license plate on my car, I'm 43 and I graduated, feels like decades ago, but and I drive in traffic sometimes on my way to work, and I see other, like Cal State Fullerton alumni, and I just like, do we have a hand signal that we could do? Because I'm like, beep, beep, I want to be like, what's up? Like, go Titans, and it just, I feel like we're just, obviously a lot of people graduate from Cal State Fullerton and go on to just do amazing things. And I just think that it's so great that we have alumni associations like this that, individualized per department, that really just focus on getting the word out there that we are doing great things. And we really want to see more people like us, in the jobs that we're in. We had a brief conversation before this via email, and I work with a lot of Titans in our newsroom. And hi, my family's just walking in right now.
No worries.
Do you want to come say hi real fast? This is my other job.
But yeah, like some people don't realize that we have jobs. Everyone has work, but you're still able to give that time, which I do appreciate. And then it kind of goes back to when we're talking about newscasting and everything. It goes back to newscasting, where the journalists and reporters do have a family that they have to go back to and work at home. This is their second job, like you mentioned. So
yeah.
So yeah, to end it off, I just wanted to plug our Titan Pro Network to you and to all the students or any alumni who would watch this. So basically what it is our very own LinkedIn site specifically for Cal State Fullerton alum and students, including staff and faculty. So basically it allows that connection to foster where you can easily message a student maybe who's getting into journalism, or a student can message you asking about where do they get an internship, or what do people look for students just graduating, or what should they do. So currently we have over 1,000 alumni signed up that students can easily go ahead. I know it's such like a big number of like alumni who are willing to give their time. Because it's not just like you find an alumni on LinkedIn, you don't know if they're available, you don't know if they're free, you don't know if they want to, but everyone on this platform actively signed up voluntarily. So in doing that for the Titan Pro Network, it helps us quite a bit, because just a few years ago, it would be much harder to find an alumni. Even before social media, it was even harder. But now, so you have social media plus the Titan Pro Network, which it's just super simple to find someone in your field or industry to sort of chat or to follow or ask any questions. So we would appreciate if you signed up for it, and any students or alum watching this signed up for Titan Pro Network. It would be greatly appreciated.
Absolutely. You got it.
So thank you so much, Stephanie, for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you so much.